Welcome to this video brought to you by the C.A.C. It's collaboration event refreshing summer art. So I hope you enjoy this video and the other videos that come with this group of collaborative videos. Let's have a look at our video then. My video today is a painting of a photograph I took in the garden. Had a relaxing afternoon and it was a lovely summer afternoon, and I wanted to paint it. It's a slightly abstract view at close-up of a flower. I forget what type of flower it is. It doesn't matter because it's semi-abstract. So I hope that you enjoy this video and thank you for viewing. This is the paper I'm using today. It's Imula Harmony paper. It's 300 grams, or if you use the other measurement, 140 pounds. I'm only using half of the page, and you'll see why in a bit. So it's 100% cellulose, this paper. It's also surface size, which is nice. So, and the texture that it has on it is rough. It's a really nice paper. I'm enjoying using it, and I've not had any problems at all with it up till now. Imula has a sister paper made like this that's 100% cotton, and I've also got that, and I will be reviewing and showing that at a later date. What I'm doing today is this side of the painting. A few days ago I did this little flower that they were in the garden, and that's done now, but I'm going to split them off eventually. But while it's on this block, because this paper's a block, I'm going to still continue to paint on here. And again, this is from the garden, the painting that I'm going to do. So just briefly looking at some basic tools I am going to use. A 0.5mm basic mechanical pencil, possibly a rubber if I need to rub anything out. I'm not going to be doing too much drawing on the paper. Something I will be using is a wax resist stick that's in there, literally like a piece of a little pencil that you can put wax on, and I'm going to do the outer edge with some tape to protect it so it's got a nice border around the edge of it. So that's what we're going to do now. We'll put the border around the edge and we'll start the process. If I can get the tape. You've just got to be a bit careful with tape on some paper, because it can be a little bit, it can tear it a bit if you're not careful. I'm hoping that won't bleed through when I paint, because sometimes you can have it bleeding through, which ain't good. So that's that edged off. Let's go to the next step, which is drawing out the actual piece of art, and I'll introduce you to the photograph, the reference that I took as well. So we've got our setup ready to draw. I've got my reference image over at the side there. I forget what type of flowers they are, but that's what we're going to have a go at. I'm going to try and be a bit abstract with this if I possibly can. So let's try and get some basic shapes in. And literally, I'm not going to be doing anything overly elaborate. Got 2 flowers there. And it kind of whips back in like that. And where that meets there, it goes and makes that nice bell kind of shape. And then the other one meets up like that somehow. That's the main part of the drawing actually done. We just need to put some other bits in. Where that meets there, we've got this internal part of that flower which I'd like to get. And that will all go that way, won't it? Again, above that we've got another internal but slightly smaller. And then it's just peripheral stuff really after that. And I'm not even going to bother being overly accurate about that. One I will try and be a bit more accurate about is that, because that again reinforces that bell shape there. Give myself an idea of where all this leafage is here. And the other side is just circles, because it's like the lens has gone completely out of focus, because it's a very macro image. It kind of makes it look very abstract. And that's it, it's done. Our next step is to mask off our image that we've drawn, and there are several products that we can use to do that. We've got the classic liquid masking fluid, which you can apply in with several different things, such as this ruling pen or a shaper. You can use brushes, but it's not advisable. This brush is a cheap one that came in a pack of 20, and the throwaway brushes, and if you want a brushy feel to your masking, then by all means use one of those, but don't use your best brushes because it will ruin them. Apart from those fluid masks, what I want to do today is use this wax resist, and literally it is a completely clear block of wax, so when water goes over it, it just repels. The main area that I'm wanting to concentrate this wax resist on is the area of the blown out flowers, the fuzzy areas around there, and just going around that area really. You may not see this unfortunately, but I'm putting a layer of wax in various areas around it like that. And then when I put some heavy applications of paint on that, it will bounce off it and give it a really nice effect. we're ready to start painting. So we're going to do the background, and it's going to be a wash of very light paint, a lemony yellow kind of colour. I've got something similar here, but I'm gonna dull that down, and I'm gonna make get a bit of lemon yellow. I'm not going to be giving all the colour names all the time. I'll just basically point to this. This is lemon yellow, but we want it to be really washy, this. Then once we've kind of get it a good coating, we'll loads of water. It's virtually all water, that. And literally very careful, because I've not masked the flower off on the right hand side. I've just got to be a bit careful about what I'm doing with the flower, because although it's not critical, I don't want too much of it to be going on it. And as you notice, where I put that wax resist, it's bounced off it, which is great. That's exactly what I want it to do, because it's a very watery solution as well. It's worked really well. I might put the very lightest of residuals in that, because there's no such thing really as an absolute white area. They're just tiny highlights that you might see. So for the time being, that's that layer done. I'll just leave it to get a bit drier, and then I'll add a slightly different colour to it. So I'm just adding interest now. Just make the image a little bit more as you can see from the image itself, the background is a very sappy green, so we need to introduce some of that to it. And a good time to do it is while the yellow's still slightly wet. So let's see what we can do with that. It's just picking out areas that are of interest, because it's still wet, it will run a lot. You don't need to use an awful lot of paint. In fact, I've done a bit too much there. So what I will do is use ye olde dabber, so just some tissue paper, and do that in certain areas. Adds interest and various other bits of things. What you ain't got to do is put too much detail in the background, because it'll overwhelm the rest of the image. Just that slightest little bit of stuff, just to make sure that you know that it's foliage in the background. In saying that, we have got a little bit of purpley colour down at the bottom if you look at the reference, that I will introduce, but I'll be very careful about how much I'm going to do that. So, as you'll notice throughout the painting, the paint does get lighter as it dries, and you probably might have to go over it once again, but we'll come to that later. So what? Gonna mix some of this. I think it's Venetian red. I'm going to make that incredibly light. Right, there's a lot of water on there, so what I will do is use the control system. And I'll get a magenta colour, mix it in with that, because there are dabs of magenta in there. Again, get rid of the overspill. Round there, so a light area. So what I've got to do now is leave it all to dry. What it's important to do is regularly change your water, as it can get muddied up quite easily, and that can take the freshness of the image away. I'm now moving on from this big brush to a bit smaller one, and this one's got a more detailed point on it. So before we go any farther and start doing the foreground, I'm going to adjust some of these edges because they're quite crisp, and we don't always want crisp edges. We want a combination of what they call lost and found edges, and then it will give it a more natural feel. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go absolutely around everything. Some areas I'm going to give a lost edge, and some areas I'm not. So let's look for a good thing to have when we're dealing with painting is a cloth like this. So you can, I'm going to put it there. Then what you do is if you got a bit too much water on your thing, you just dab it off. So let's have a look at this edge here. See if we can. I don't know if you'll be able to see it with quality at video, to be honest with you. Just nips the edge away a bit. In certain areas. We don't want it all to be soft edged. although the background will dominate soft edges. We want low detail and softness in the background, so the more softness they get, more realistic it'll look in this particular case. It just takes that edge away, and I think that's really, apart from the odd bit that I can do a little bit later on, I might re-emphasise that. That's the background done. Now it's time for the middle distance painting of the flowers. What do I mean by the middle distance? We've got this background here that's all soft and fluffy. We've got some flowers here, including this one here. You might think that that's a foreground flower, but when you look at it, it is actually slightly out of focus. The three flowers that are actually in focus and foreground are this one here, and the one just above it. So we're going to focus his attention on this middle distant flower and these bits up here. So, and again, these are going to be ever so slightly out of focus, so to show that we're coming closer and closer and closer and closer, and that gives a sense of depth. So we'll make a start on those. So it's going to be these three, I think we'll do, then that one, and then this here, and that are going to be as final things to do. I'm going to clean up my palette a little bit because I think I need some fresh. Always important to keep your palette clean. So I'm going to make up a strong mixture of this magenta. Because that's pretty much the colour it is, the flower. And this is the core colour that I will be using for the rest of the painting, really. Apart from little bits of touching up the various little bits of paint. So that's a good strong mix. I don't want it extra strong. What I want is a really light, like we did earlier with the yellow, but this is an incredibly strong pigmented paint, so you've got to be careful how much you use. And remember also that this paint, it can dry 20% lighter, so I'm thinking carefully about how light I make it. This. So we've got strong pigment there, and we've got a very light pigment there. So in various areas, making sure that you don't hit that one. Not yet anyway. We can deal with that later on. It's really a matter of, come on, in this bit here. And I said I weren't going to put any other colours in, but what I am going to do is get some of this really dark blue here and nip a bit of that, and see how you've got like a dark area. Well, that can flood into there. Might be a little bit dark that, but we'll deal with that later on. Now, some of this painting, the flowers are actually creating shadows on themselves, which is nice. So kinda. So the light is coming in that way, so the underside obviously is going to have a lot of darker areas. And just remember, this looks dark now, but it will go a lot lighter. So all I'm going to do with this one now is the water what I've got is a bit purpley for this, and I'm trying to avoid it in what I've already painted. I'm just going to do a bit of a, because that's as much as you need in that sense, like that. Might drop, see if I can drop a little bit in, like that. It's just picking areas out that are interesting, and let the watercolour do the painting. Just remember, this is still in the background, so it can still be quite abstract in its expression. So don't overly worry about doing lots of detail work with it. In fact, at the moment, I think that is about as much as I want to do for that. I'm going to leave that to dry for a bit, and then we're going to concentrate on this, which will have that's our main point of focus in the image. Let's get the first light wash over these foreground images, and I'm going to do that one because that's farthest back, and then these here, and then that. So to start with, I'm just going to get a dab of it, literally in from that watery lot of paint. Make sure it's well watery. Well watery sounds like a buzzword, doesn't it? Well watery. This is well watery. That's as much as I'm going to do with that for the time being. And what you do to make this a lot more foregroundy is you not only have these very watery washes on them, you build it up a bit more with a couple more layers that are much more drier washes, and you'll eventually get a very foregroundy. So I'm going to put a wash over that's more drier, and then more drier there, and even more drier on this main focus point. But we'll get an overall wash in first on them all. And I'm thinking directionally now. if I possibly can. Remembering that light is coming from that direction, so you need to get a stronger wash there. And this flower, it kind of undulates in and out like that a little bit. It's not all perfectly cylindrical, so we've got to try and put some of that into it if we possibly can. But again, you must be patient with this and let it dry and not put too much paint on at any one time. So I'm getting to this stage now with this where I need to leave it a little bit. Although we made that blue, didn't we? I will put a little bit of that, not too much. And just remember, when it's wet, it runs a lot, so you don't need tons of it. You really don't. And I can see a little bit of a shadow there, so we'll see if we can incorporate that. Almost like veining, but don't be hyper detailed about it. It's semi-abstract, this, so you want to really be looking more at the how things interact and flow into one another, rather than trying to create detail. So again, this is at a stage possibly, apart from these areas, where I might need to just leave it for a little bit to dry a bit, and that's just to make sure that you don't bleed certain areas that are separate into one another. So we'll possibly come back here and do some detailing work on that. So let's have a look at and again, always taking into account that these are not areas of massive detail, so again, you've just got to be a bit random about it. And as you can see, they're creating very strong lines. That once I've let that dry, I will soften out a bit more. Now this, I've given it enough time to actually dry up a little bit, so we'll see if we can get some more colour into that. And what I'm wanting to do is to try and emphasise that area as an area that bulges out a little bit. We're not that far away from finishing. It's mostly bits of detail now. So we have got another foreground, two more foreground flowers. We've got this one here. Now I did do quite a bit of masking and with the wax with that, so most of the work there is done, although I will return back to it and put a darker colour into it. But again, in this case it's following the line, isn't it? So we're gonna see a lot of that masking that I did is already done the work for me. Get a little bit more blue here again, because this one will have quite a bit of blue in it. And again, that one as well. Although they are foreground flowers, I don't want them to overtake the entire image. So much as it's got some nice detail in it, I just want it to be a little bit like, you know, this is the key point in the image and that behind it, although that is actually in front of that. So it's just a bit of artist license that I think will make the composition a bit more pleasing. Really just taking some of this darker blue now and starting to add interest to the image a bit more. Blending it in, getting that a bit darker. And if you notice, as I make that more darker, it makes this area stand out a bit more because there's lots of white area, so the contrast is creating the image. And again, that's remembering where the light's coming from. That's there, isn't it? What I now want to do, while this is all drying, in this area and several other areas, but I'm just going to concentrate in here, I use the wax resist crayons. Now, normally that's permanent, but if you've got a good quality rubber and good quality paper, you can actually get rid of some of that wax. Right, if you notice, I've give the edge of the rubber that I'm going to use a really good cleaning to make sure that there's no residual gunk on the on the rubber, because that could easily transfer itself onto the paper. So in areas where I know I've waxed like that, I'm going to rub this off. Now it's stopped paint going on it before, so if we go like this now, you notice how it's all clumping together. And there it is. It's actually, with the bits of the rubber, it's actually bonded itself to the rubber. So hopefully now I can now use that brush, a brush now, to see if I can do a bit of painting on it. You should be able to, because as you see in the reference image, yeah, it kind of, it allows it to go on it now. Take a little bit away from that. There you go. I'm going to do exactly the same with this and the rest of the wax that I've done. So literally, you see what it did there? So if anybody says to you, oh, wax don't come off it, don't come off your picture and you've lost it once you've put wax on it, that's not the case. If you've got the right type of paper and you've got a decent rubber, it will come off it. Obviously you have to be careful, but we'll try another bit. I want a little bit of greeny colour now in that one. And there you go. While I'm in this kind of environment, I'll put the odd bit of leafage in there, which is what is actually in that. And I'll continue doing that with the rest of this, and then remove the wax and put little bits of detail work in it, just to, you know, things like that. So I've got rid of the wax that was protecting the background bits like these, and I'm now just going to do a bit of light blending so that they're not all harsh edges. Now I want to leave some of these crisp harsh edges because they're nice, but I don't want it all to be absolutely hard edges. So that's kind of softened that background up. I'm really happy with background now. We've just got to focus his attention on getting rid of the wax off of the main foreground work, and then getting a bit of detail and refinement in that. Right, we've got the wax off of the foreground flowers, and we're ready to start doing the final definition and detail work that's needed for that. So let's have a go. It's. I'm going to make a stronger mix of this. That's in real terms, it should be dry. Get rid of some of that. It's too strong. Better. Possibly need to be. So. There's little bits in areas that you can just that's called negative painting. You just created an edge by painting in a different area. And I'm painting quite dry now. Less wet, so I've got a lot more control of what I'm doing. I will blend some of this in, but we'll see. Always remember that, again, it will dry lighter. Apart from getting some of the edges sorted out, I think that's the painting basically done. And this is the point where you've got to stop yourself and say, no, I'm faffing about with it, and really stop. I'm just gonna keep it too big. Right, I think that's that done then. Right, let's get the masking tape off of the paper now. This can be a tricky situation. You need to use masking tape that's not massively tacky, and there is a technique for doing it so that you don't tear the paper. So let's hope that it works. I'm going to find one of the edges, which is that one. No, probably wrong edge. Right, we'll start with this one, and look what I'm doing. I'm pulling away from that point. I'm pulling towards me, and you steadily pull. Don't yank or do anything silly. Don't pull it off to the side. Don't pull it that way. It's pulling directly in the line of the masking tape itself towards yourself. And it's nice and steady. Must have put that under there, so I'll just it helps if your masking tape's a low tack tape, but then again your masking tape sometimes won't hold the thing down, but this is on it's on a board, so it don't really matter about that. What I'm using the masking tape for is making a crisp edge, which I'm hoping that it has done. But you still have to be careful about taking. Well, that's a bit disappointing. Oh mind you, I think that we're on it already on the paper. So that's that one done. Halfway there. See if I can do this one up at the top. So just remember, nice and steady, and always pulling away in the direction of the tape, like that. And have it really low like that, not like that. That's how you pull the paper up. You must try and pull like that. And then it's not actually yanking the paper away. I'll just go underneath that because for some strange reason I've managed to be able to do it in a way that things are on top of one another. There we go, one more to go. So again, I'm pulling away towards me and away from the paper, and I'm having it really low like that. If you do it like that and be very careful, you shouldn't have any problem with it. And this is what I do with my paintings on a regular basis, and I don't get tears in the paper at all. And it's all about making sure that you're not pulling the paper up, and making sure as well that the paper's dry once you've done your painting. And there we go. So what I intend on doing is obviously cutting that down, taking it off the block and cutting it down, and then we're done. Painting finished. So at this stage I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope it's been instructional for you. It's done as part of a hop this, so have a look at the other videos as well, see what they're doing. It's a summertime special hop, and all the details will be in the paperwork down at the bottom of the page if you're looking at it on YouTube. So thank you again. Subscribe if you like this. I'm going to do more of these videos. So again, thank you.